The 32nd Annual Interstellar Medical Summit was exactly as boring as it sounded. Picture a conference hall the size of 3 football fields, floating somewhere in neutral space, packed wall to wall with the galaxy's most self-important physicians. We're talking doctors from 400 different species, all convinced their particular brand of medicine was obviously superior to everyone else's. At the front of the main auditorium, Dr. Kellyan Vros stood behind a holographic podium, and he was having the time of his life. Vros was Zentari, which meant he had 4 arms, skin like polished obsidian, and an ego that could be seen from orbit. He'd spent the last 3 years isolating what he called the most lethal neurotoxin ever discovered, and today was his moment to bask in the horrified admiration of his peers. "Colleagues," Vros announced, gesturing with all 4 hands for maximum dramatic effect, "I present to you Vorpax 7. A single drop of this substance will cause complete neural cascade failure in any carbon-based life form within 90 seconds. There is no antidote. There is no treatment. There is only certainty." The audience made various species-appropriate sounds of awe and terror. A Threxian physician in the 3rd row actually fainted, which was impressive considering Threxians didn't technically have a nervous system. Vros continued, clearly enjoying himself. "I have tested this compound on tissue samples from over 200 species. The results are universally fatal. This toxin doesn't simply kill, it unmakes the very concept of living. It is the medical equivalent of a period at the end of a sentence, final and absolute." That's when Jake Murphy, sitting in the back row with his feet up on the seat in front of him, looked up from his breakfast burrito and said, "So it's like, super poisonous?" Every head in the auditorium turned. Vros's 4 eyes narrowed into slits. "I'm sorry," Vros said, in a tone that suggested he was absolutely not sorry. Did the human observer have a question? Jake swallowed his bite of burrito and wiped his mouth with a napkin that had definitely come from the station's food court. "Nah, just making sure I got it. Super poisonous, no cure, very dramatic. Got it." Vros's mandibles clicked in irritation. Humans had only been invited to these conferences for the last 5 years, and in Vros's professional opinion, it had been 5 years too long. They were barely spacefaring, their medicine was primitive, and they had the audacity to show up eating something wrapped in foil. "Yes," Vros said coldly. "Super poisonous. I'm glad we could simplify several years of research into terms even a mammal could understand." Jake nodded agreeably, completely missing or ignoring the insult. Cool. So what's it taste like?" The question hung in the air like a bad smell. Several doctors shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "Taste like?" Vros repeated, as if the words didn't make sense. In that order. "Yeah, I mean, you said it kills everything in 90 seconds. But like, what's the flavor profile? Bitter? Metallic? Does it burn going down?" Vros made a sound like escaping steam. "It doesn't matter what it tastes like because nothing that tastes it survives long enough to file a report." "Sounds like bad tequila," Jake said thoughtfully. Jake took another bite of his burrito, chewing thoughtfully while Vros visibly tried to regain his composure. The doctor's 4 arms straightened his notes, adjusted his ceremonial medical sash, and gripped the podium like he was trying to strangle it. "Perhaps," Vros said, his voice dripping with condescension, "the human observer would benefit from a more detailed explanation of why Vorpax 7 represents the pinnacle of lethal compounds." "Sure," Jake said agreeably. "Hit me." Vros launched into what was clearly a prepared lecture. Vorpax 7 operates on a quantum level, simultaneously disrupting neural pathways, cellular, respiration, and genetic stability. It bypasses every known biological defense mechanism. Immune systems cannot detect it. Cellular walls cannot block it. It is, in the most literal sense, perfect death. "Uh-huh," Jake said. "And you're absolutely sure about this?" "I have tested it on samples from 247 species across 17 biological classifications. The results are identical every time. Total cellular breakdown within 90 seconds. "Right. But have you tested it on humans?" Vros's eyes widened slightly. "I don't need to test it on humans. You are carbon-based, oxygen-breathing, standard mammalian biology. You would die like everything else." Jake shrugged. "I mean, that's kind of an assumption though, isn't it? You're a scientist. Shouldn't you test your hypothesis?" A ripple of interest went through the crowd. Scientists, regardless of species, hated untested assumptions almost as much as they loved being right. Vros's mandibles clicked rapidly. A sign of extreme irritation. "I am not going to waste a sample of the galaxy's most lethal toxin on a demonstration that will only confirm what we already know." "So you're saying," Jake said slowly, "that you're so confident this stuff kills everything that you won't actually test it?" That's not very scientific, Doc. The auditorium was dead silent now. Every alien physician was watching this exchange like it was the most entertaining thing to happen at a medical conference in decades. Which, to be fair, it was. Vross made a sound like grinding gears. Fine. Yes. I am absolutely 100% certain that Vorpax 7 would kill a human just as efficiently as any other species. I would stake my entire professional reputation on it. Cool, Jake said, finishing his burrito and crumpling the foil into a ball. So if someone did survive it, you'd be pretty embarrassed, huh? That is a meaningless hypothetical because no one can survive it. But if someone did, they won't. But, hypothetically, Vross slammed all four hands on the podium. If any biological entity in this galaxy could survive even a single drop of Vorpax 7, I would resign from the medical council and admit that my entire life's work was worthless. Is that sufficient? Jake stood up, stretching. Yeah, that works. Is there a prize or anything? A prize. There's no prize because it's impossible. Seems like there should be a prize, Jake said, walking down the aisle toward the stage. But okay, let's do this anyway. The entire auditorium leaned forward. Do what? Vross asked, suddenly uncertain. Jake hopped up onto the stage and pointed at the small containment vial sitting next to Vross's holographic display. That the poison? Vross's eyes went wide. All four of them. You cannot be serious. Dude, Jake said, picking up the vial and holding it up to the light. You just spent 20 minutes telling everyone how impossible it is to survive this stuff. Put your money where your mouth is. Or mouths. How many mouths do you have? This is insane. Conference security. But no security came. Because every single person in that auditorium wanted to see what happened next. 300 alien doctors held their collective breath as Jake Murphy, human medical observer from Earth, looked at the vial of the galaxy's most lethal toxin and made the worst decision of Dr. Kellyan Vross's life. Cheers, Jake said. And he drank it. For exactly 2 seconds, nothing happened. The auditorium was frozen in a tableau of universal horror. 300 alien physicians watched a human being commit what should have been instant suicide. Then all hell broke loose. Someone call emergency medical. A Krillian doctor shrieked, which was redundant considering they were literally at a medical conference surrounded by doctors. Vross made a sound like a tea kettle having an existential crisis. All four of his arms flailed independently as if they couldn't agree on which direction panic should take. No. This is not happening. This cannot be happening. A dozen different species rushed the stage with emergency medical equipment that looked like a combination of torture devices and modern art. Gravitational stabilizers, cellular regeneration fields, neural backup drives, the works. Someone even brought a defibrillator designed for a species with 7 hearts, just in case. Jake stood there, perfectly still, his face scrunched up in concentration. He's going into shock, someone yelled. Check his neural activity. Is he breathing? Do humans need to breathe? Jake held up one finger in a universal gesture for wait a second. The medical scanners surrounding him were going absolutely haywire, showing readings that shouldn't have been possible. The toxin was definitely in his bloodstream. It was definitely doing what it was supposed to do. Jake definitely should have been a puddle of organic soup by now. Instead, after what felt like an eternity but was actually about 15 seconds, Jake smacked his lips, made a face like he'd just licked a battery, and said, "Yeah, that's awful. That tastes like diesel fuel mixed with regret and maybe a hint of battery acid." The medical equipment beeped in confusion. What? Vross shrieked, which was impressive because Zentarii didn't technically have vocal cords. Jake coughed once, thumped his chest with his fist, and looked around at the crowd of panicking alien doctors. Does anyone have salt? And maybe a lime? Because if I'm gonna drink poison, I should at least do it right. This is like the worst tequila shot ever. A Pultharian medical scanner made a sound like a computer crashing. Its operator stared at the readout, then at Jake, then back at the readout. This is impossible. The toxin is in his system. I can see it. It's active. He should be dead 15 seconds ago. I feel like I should be offended by that, Jake said. But honestly, yeah, this stuff is pretty gnarly. Got that burning sensation going. Down. Definite chemical aftertaste. I'd rate it like a 4 out of 10. Maybe a 3. You're rating it? Vross had moved past panic into some kind of post-panic state that didn't have a name yet. He grabbed Jake's shoulders with 2 of his hands, while the other 2 waved his medical scanner around. You drank Vorpax 7. You should be experiencing complete neural cascade failure. Your cells should be tearing themselves apart. Jake burped. Excuse me. Yeah, I can feel it doing something. Kind of tingly, like when your foot falls asleep but in your stomach. More scanners were brought forward. A Vrelian physician, known for her expertise in toxicology, pushed through the crowd and ran her own diagnostic equipment over Jake's torso. She looked at the results, recalibrated, scanned again, and then just stared at Jake like he was a mathematical proof that didn't make sense. The toxin is active, she said slowly. I can confirm it's breaking down neural transmitters, disrupting cellular, respiration, and attacking genetic stability exactly as expected. See, Vross said triumphantly, though his triumph was heavily mixed with horror. He's dying! But, the Vrelian continued, something is fighting back. His liver is producing compounds I've never seen before. His immune system is treating the toxin like a personal insult. And his cellular regeneration is just, I don't even know. It's like watching a construction crew rebuild a house while it's on fire. Jake nodded. Yeah, that tracks. My liver's gotten me through some rough times. College, mostly. And that 4th of July in Reno we don't talk about. This is impossible, Vross whispered, his earlier confidence crumbling like a sandcastle in a tsunami. Dude, Jake said, finally finding a chair and sitting down because standing was getting old. I once knew a guy who drank a bottle of hand sanitizer on a dare and was back at work the next day. Humans are built different. Our whole planet's been trying to kill us since day one. We're basically walking middle fingers to the concept of natural selection. The tingly sensation was starting to fade. Jake's liver, having identified the threat, had apparently decided that Vorpax 7 was just spicy alcohol with delusions of grandeur and was processing it accordingly. Anyone got water? Jake asked. I'm getting that dehydrated feeling. You know, like after a really bad hangover. A medical assistant, too shocked to do anything else, handed him a container of water. Jake drank it, wiped his mouth, and looked up at the assembled doctors staring at him like he'd just performed a magic trick. So, he said conversationally, about that resignation. Vross sat down heavily on the stage floor, all four arms hanging limply at his sides. He looked like someone had just told him the universe was actually flat and everything he knew was wrong, which, in a sense, was exactly what had happened. The Vrelian toxicologist was still waving her scanner around. Jake, like she was trying to find the hidden camera. This doesn't make sense. By every known law of biology, you should be dead. Very dead. Extremely dead. Yeah, I'm getting that, Jake said. But here's the thing. Humans are from Earth, right? And Earth is what we call a Class 12 death world. A collective gasp went through the medical professionals who knew what that meant. For those who didn't, a heptarian doctor in the front row helpfully fainted again. Death world? Someone squeaked from the back. Oh yeah, Jake said, warming to his topic. See, Earth is basically a planet that woke up every day and chose violence. We've got weather that can kill you, animals that want to kill you, plants that are definitely trying to kill you, and microorganisms that are really enthusiastic about killing you. Everything on Earth is either poisonous, venomous, carnivorous, or just generally hostile to the concept of life. He held up his hand and started counting on his fingers. We've got spiders the size of dinner plates, weather systems that throw entire houses around for fun, ocean currents that'll drag you to the bottom and keep you there, earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunamis. Our planet has a liquid metal core and occasionally decides to flip its entire magnetic field, just to keep things interesting. A Zentarii medical student raised one hand timidly. But how do you survive? Spite, mostly, Jake said cheerfully. But also, our biology adapted. You know what humans do for fun, Doc? We poison ourselves. On purpose. Regularly. Vross looked up from his existential crisis. What? Alcohol, Jake said, ticking off on his fingers again. Literal poison that we drink socially. It's a neurotoxin and a cellular toxin, and we've been drinking it for 10,000 years. We call it going out on Friday night. Some of us do it on Tuesdays. The auditorium was silent, except for the sound of medical scanners beeping in confusion. Then there's capsaicin, Jake continued. That's a chemical plants evolved specifically to stop mammals from eating them. It causes pain receptors to fire and makes your mouth feel like it's on fire. We put it on everything and call it flavor. We have competitive eating contests to see who can handle the most. I once saw a guy eat a pepper so hot he temporarily went blind, and his response was to try a hotter one next week. Why? The Vrelian asked, genuine distress in her voice. Because it was there? Jake shrugged. Also caffeine. That's an insecticide. Plants make it to kill bugs. We brew it into drinks and consume it every morning to achieve basic functionality. Some people drink 4 or 5 cups a day. I knew a programmer who drank 12. Ross was shaking his head in denial. No. No species would willingly consume poison for recreation. Chocolate, Jake added. Toxic to most earth animals. We make candy out of it. Nicotine, another insecticide. We used to smoke it. Still do in some places. Theobromine, caffeine's chemical cousin, also in chocolate. We give it to children on holidays. A doctor near the front made us sound like a computer processing an error. Our livers, Jake said, patting his abdomen affectionately, are basically industrial chemical processing plants. They can break down and neutralize hundreds of different compounds. And if our liver gets damaged, it just grows back. Only organ that does that. You can remove 70% of a human liver, and it'll regenerate like we're some kind of starfish. That's horrifying, someone whispered. That's evolution, baby, Jake said. And don't even get me started on our immune systems. Those things hold grudges. You know what chickenpox is? It's a virus that hides in your nervous system for decades, waiting to come back as shingles. And our immune system just remembers it forever, ready to fight it again. We vaccinate ourselves by literally injecting dead or weakened diseases so our bodies can practice killing them. We train our immune systems like they're going to war. The Vrelian looked at her scanner, then at Jake, then at her scanner again. So, the Vorpax 7. Got identified as ethanol's angry cousin, got processed by my liver's Saturday night protocol, and is currently being filtered out through my kidneys. I'll probably pee it out in like an hour. Jake paused. Should I be worried about that? Is my pee gonna be toxic? I don't know, Ross shouted, his voice cracking. I don't know anything anymore. My entire understanding of xenobiology has been destroyed in 20 minutes. Yeah, sorry about that, Jake said, not sounding particularly sorry. But hey, look at it this way. Now you know that if you want to make something that'll kill humans, you gotta try harder. We've been playing on hard mode since the Stone Age. Someone in the back raised a tentacle. What's the Stone Age? That's when we were so primitive we made tools out of rocks and still somehow became the stone. Dominant species on our planet. Using rocks? Well, we also discovered fire and decided to cook our food with it, which let us digest things better and develop bigger brains, which we then used to invent better ways to kill things. It's kind of our whole deal. The medical conference had descended into something between a scientific symposium and a therapy session. Doctors were having quiet breakdowns in corners. Others were frantically recalculating their understanding of human biology. Someone was crying. Ross just sat there, staring at nothing. Jake checked his watch. So are we done here? Because I'm starting to feel pretty good, actually. Kinda got a buzz going. This is like that time I drank homemade moonshine in Kentucky, except with less blindness risk. Moonshine? A brave soul asked. Oh, that's alcohol so strong it's technically classified as a fire hazard. Some of it can run engines. We drink it in the woods and call it a good time. The crying got louder. 23 minutes after drinking what was supposed to be the most lethal toxin in the known galaxy, Jake Murphy stood up, stretched, and announced that he felt great. Better than great, actually. He felt like he'd just had a really good nap and a strong cup of coffee. The medical scanners confirmed what everyone was seeing, but nobody wanted to believe. The Vorpax 7 was completely gone. Neutralized, broken down into harmless compounds and processed out of his system like it was a cheap beer at a college party. Vital signs normal, the Vrelian reported, her voice hollow with disbelief. Neural activity normal. Cellular function normal. He's not just alive, he's perfectly healthy. I could go for a sandwich, though, Jake added. That burrito was like an hour ago. A Krillian physician who specialized in lethal compounds slowly raised a crystalline appendage. I have a question. Shoot, Jake said. I developed a toxin last year. Hemolytic agent, breaks down red blood cells. Tested it on 80 species. All fatal. Would that work on humans? Jake thought about it. Probably not. We've got like 25 trillion red blood cells, and our bone marrow just makes more constantly. You'd have to break them down faster than we can replace them, which seems hard. The Krillian made a sound like breaking glass, which was their version of sobbing. Another hand went up. This one belonged to a Thexarian researcher. Neurotoxin, blocks sodium channels, prevents nerve signals. We've got like 100 billion neurons and our bodies are really good at rerouting signals. Plus, our brains are weirdly redundant. People have survived with like half their brain missing and still functioned pretty normally. The Thexarians sat down and put their head in their appendages. Oxygen deprivation? someone called out desperately. We can hold our breath for several minutes. Some people train to do it for like 10 minutes or more. Our bodies have this whole diving reflex thing. Radiation poisoning? We literally use radiation to treat cancer. We just aim it at the bad cells and hope for the best. Sometimes it works. Cellular degradation toxins. Our cells die and get replaced constantly. We're basically a completely different person every 7 years at the cellular level. The questions kept coming, and Jake kept answering them, each response causing another existential crisis somewhere in the auditorium. It was like watching dominoes fall, except each domino was a medical professional's entire understanding of toxicology. Vros finally stood up, all 4 arms trembling. This is impossible. You're describing a species that's essentially immune to conventional xenobiology. I mean, not immune, Jake corrected. You can definitely kill us. We're just really annoying to kill. And our threshold for what counts as poisonous is like way higher than everyone else's. We spent millions of years in an arms race with literally everything on our planet. A thought occurred to the Vrelian. What about your ships? What do human crews consume during long voyages? Oh, you mean like rations and stuff? Pretty standard. Preserved foods, water, coffee. Some crews smuggle alcohol on board even though they're not supposed to. And the alcohol they smuggle? Usually whatever we can make with onboard equipment. Fermented fruit juice, mostly. Sometimes someone gets creative with the medical ethanol. There was a long pause. You drink medical ethanol? I mean, you're not supposed to, but it's happened. One time on a colony ship, the crew got bored and made something they called rocket fuel. Put 3 people in the medical bay, but they were fine after their livers processed it. Your livers processed medical-grade ethanol? Yeah, took like a day, but they were good. Little dehydrated, lot of regret, but good. A Poltharian doctor stood up suddenly. I need to leave. I need to completely redo 17 years of research. Excuse me. They walked out of the auditorium like a person who just learned their entire life was a lie. They weren't the only one. A steady stream of medical professionals began filing out, muttering about recalibrations and new testing protocols and early retirement. Jake looked around at the chaos he'd caused. So, is the conference over or? Yes, Ross said flatly. Yes, the conference is over. Everything is over. The universe makes no sense anymore. Cool. Hey, before everyone leaves, can someone point me toward the cafeteria? I'm starving, and that toxin thing really worked up an appetite. Do you guys have pizza here? You probably don't have pizza. That's a shame. Pizza's great. The remaining doctors just stared at him. No? Okay, I'll find it myself. Jake hopped off the stage and started walking toward the exit. He paused at the door and turned back. Oh, and Doc? Vros? No hard feelings about the whole resignation thing. Everyone makes mistakes. Maybe next time just test your hypothesis before betting your career on it. That's like Science 101. Vros didn't respond. He was too busy having what appeared to be a complete professional breakdown, all 4 arms covering his face. Jake shrugged and left, whistling a tune that sounded suspiciously like the theme from a medical drama. Behind him, the 32nd Annual Interstellar Medical Summit dissolved into philosophical chaos, existential dread, and a lot of urgent calls to research institutions about updating literally everything they thought they knew about human biology. 3 hours later, the conference hall looked like the aftermath of a particularly devastating natural disaster, except instead of physical destruction, it was the collapse of scientific certainty. Doctors sat in small groups, having quiet crises. Others were on communication devices, urgently calling their home institutions to warn them that everything they knew was wrong. A few were just lying on the floor, staring at the ceiling, contemplating the meaninglessness of their life's work. Vros remained on the stage, exactly where Jake had left him. All 4 of his arms were now covering all 4 of his eyes. He hadn't moved in 2 hours. Occasionally, he would mutter something about tenure and research grants and the cruelty of the universe. The Vrelian toxicologist approached him carefully, like she was approaching a wounded animal. Kellyan, you need to get up. Why? Vros asked, his voice muffled by his hands. So I can go back to my laboratory and throw away 3 years of work? So I can face my colleagues and admit that my groundbreaking discovery was defeated by a mammal with a hangover tolerance? Well, when you put it that way, it does sound bad. It is bad. Across the station, Jake had indeed found the cafeteria. He was sitting at a table with a tray of something that looked vaguely like food, scrolling through his communication device. His phone buzzed. A message from his buddy back on Earth. Hey man, how's the boring medical conference? Jake grinned and started typing. Dude, you won't believe what just happened. Alien doctor said he invented an incurable poison. I drank it. He had a meltdown. Pretty standard Tuesday. You what? Yeah, totally fine though. Tasted like bad tequila. Speaking of which, when you visit next month, bring some actual tequila. Aliens have no idea what they're missing. Also bring hot sauce. Their spicy food is like ketchup level mild. You're insane. That's what the aliens keep saying. Back in the conference hall, an emergency session of the Galactic Medical Council had been convened. The council consisted of the most respected medical minds in known space, and they all looked like they'd aged several years in the past few hours. The council chairperson, a dignified Xerillian named Torvath, spoke into the silence. So, let me make sure I understand the situation. A human consumed a lethal dose of Vorpax-7, the most dangerous neurotoxin we've ever cataloged, and not only survived but described it as having a pleasant buzz. That is correct, the Vrelian confirmed. And our entire understanding of xenotoxicology is now in question because humans apparently evolved on a planet so hostile that they developed immunity to things that shouldn't be survivable. Also correct. And they regularly consume poison for recreational purposes. Distressingly correct. Torvath was quiet for a long moment. I motion that we invite humans to join the Galactic Medical Council as consultants. Specifically, as what I'm going to call human durability specialists. Seconded, someone said immediately. All in favor? Every hand, tentacle, appendage, and pseudopod in the room went up. Motion carried. Someone find that human and offer him a job. They found Jake in the cafeteria, attempting to explain the concept of chicken wings to a very confused Poltharian food service worker. So you take the wing, you deep fry it, then you coat it in sauce made from peppers that cause pain, and then you eat it? Yeah, and the hotter the better. It's a whole thing. We have competitions. Your species is unwell. Yeah, we get that a lot. Torvath approached the table, flanked by two other council members. Mr. Murphy, the Galactic Medical Council would like to extend an official invitation for you to join us as a consultant on human biology and durability. Jake looked up from his attempted chicken wing explanation. Is there pay? Yes. Do you cover travel expenses? We can arrange that. And the food situation. Can we do something about that? Because no offense, but everything here tastes like cardboard had a baby with disappointment. Torvath blinked slowly. We can discuss dietary accommodations. Then yeah, sure. Sounds fun. Do I get a fancy title? Human Durability Consultant. Can we make it Chief Human Durability Consultant? That sounds better. Fine. Chief it is. Awesome. Jake stood up and they shook Torvath's appendage, which was like shaking hands with a tentacle made of silk. When do I start? Immediately. We need to completely revise our xenobiology curriculum, update our medical databases, and warn the entire medical community that humans are apparently indestructible nightmare creatures from a death world. You guys are being dramatic. We're not indestructible. We just have good livers and bad decision-making skills. Mr. Murphy, you drank an incurable poison and asked for salt. Yeah, but in my defense, it did taste terrible. Salt would have helped. As they walked back toward the conference hall, Jake tossed his empty food container into a recycling bin. It landed with a soft thunk, right next to the discarded Vorpax-7 vial that had been dropped there earlier by a traumatized medical assistant. Jake pulled out his phone and sent one more message to his buddy. Oh, and I got offered a job, Chief Human Durability Consultant for the Galactic Medical Council. Apparently I'm going to help aliens understand why we're so hard to kill. This is going to be hilarious. Congrats, man. Try not to drink any more alien poison. No promises. Behind them, through the windows of the conference hall, Vros could be seen finally standing up. All four of his arms hung at his sides in defeat as he began the long, humiliating walk toward the exit and whatever remained of his career. The 32nd Annual Interstellar Medical Summit would go down in history, not for any groundbreaking discoveries or medical advances, but as the day the galaxy learned that humans were less a species and more a cosmic joke that refused to die. And Jake Murphy, the man who'd accidentally destroyed an alien doctor's career by having a functioning liver, walked off into his new job, completely unaware that he'd just become a legend. Or maybe he was aware. It was hard to tell with humans. They were weird like that.